Right. So this this video is a video of comfort, really, right? It's a video of comfort. We're not talking about death today, right? Because I tell you talk about death, to be honest, right? So it's a message of comfort, right? So it's actually about birth, right? And it's a message of comfort to both male and females, right? Who Allah did not choose, right? Trying to stabilize this phone here, right? Who Allah did not choose, right, to birth, right? But you would have wanted to, right? So this is a message of comfort. Now, I don't know if it have anybody like this in this time and in the world right now, but I sure it does, right? It is a big world we live in. It's a large earth that we live in, right? So I don't know if anybody just think about these things who watching my video, right? Well, who does watch my videos only have a few views, but there's really a message of comfort for males and females who would have wanted a family life, a baby, a husband, a wife, these things. But Allah did not choose you, right, to take that path, right? Um, and it is evident that Allah did not choose you to take that path, right? So sometimes we might be wavering, wondering, hey, is this my path? Is this not my path? Right? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Is this not what I'm supposed to be doing? I'm talking to the people, males and females, who the answer is clear cut. Oh, God, Allah did not choose you to carry out that responsibility, right? And you might be wondering why, right? Or you might be thinking, oh, long and yearning, praying these things, right? If Allah has made it clear that that's not for you, it's not for you, right? When you're going long and praying, yearning for these things, and God has already made it clear that it's not for you, right? And it kind of setting up yourself for disappointment, because you might end up disbelieving in God or Allah. You might end up saying, oh, God is a disappointment. God caused me pain, Allah caused me pain, all this, right? So it's really um to bring that kind of feeling of comfort and closure in that way for the people who are going through this. I am one of them, right? The people who are going through this, and it's a lot of people who it has nothing to do with whether or not you could parent or not, right? Or whether Allah see you as a bad parent or potential bad parent, right? Why he didn't choose you to give birth to a child, right? It doesn't have to do with that, and it doesn't have to mean that, right? It doesn't have to mean that um it doesn't have to mean that it doesn't have to mean, right, that you are potentially a bad parent, right? Not at all. Not at all, right? In fact, it might mean that you might be too good of a parent, right? It might mean you might be too good of a parent if you had the opportunity, right? It might mean that you might willing to go above and beyond, and try your ultimate best, and do everything possible, right, for that child, right? It might mean that you might be just too good of a parent, right, in this timing, right, that we're living in right now. So it's not always that Allah it's not that Allah have something out against you, right? Or what you make want to make you feel a certain way about that, right? If you see in your friends around you getting pregnant, having babies, and you're at a certain age, and you don't have them kind of experiences, right? So it's not always about one comparing yourself to others, right? That's not something we should ever do, ever, right? Anything that you're going through in life, know that there's somebody else out there and multiple people, because our experiences are so connected. You would not believe it, right? People wouldn't believe the extent to which people literally go through the same things throughout the globe, right? People literally go through the same experiences throughout the earth, right? And it's unbelievable the extent, regardless of our creed, color, caste, right? Our gender, right? Our whether we male, female, whether our ethnicity is different or the same, right? Our religions, all these things, right? The aspect of connectedness that we share with people throughout the world is unbelievable. Even though we have vastly different cultural experiences, right? I talking about the feelings inside about particular things, right? The deep rooted feelings inside that we share about very particular things, right, connects us deeply across the world, right, regardless of any social condition, right, or demographic condition, right. So this really is to say whether you're male or female, right, or whatever ethnicity is, right, or religion or whatnot, race. This is really a message of comfort and closure, as I said, because um it's actually like it's actually a very painful thing, right? To become aware of certain truths, right? That's how I'll put it. It's actually a very painful thing to be made aware of certain truths and certain realities, right? That will never be, right? If you understand, certain experiences that you would have wanted to have, and you know that you was not chosen, right, to have those experiences. And that's one. Not only that, but the fact that that as well is the reality that there's something like Allah chose you or did not choose you to have a child or to have a certain experience or whatnot. So that's the next, for want of a word, for want of a better word, scary aspect of reality, right? The fact that you may not always have the choice, right? So if you want a baby, or if you and your husband want a baby, or you want to get married and have a child, Allah probably just didn't choose you for that, right? And that's, to me, that part of it is the scary part, really, right? Because me, all my life I believe in choice. You make a choice, you have your consequence, whatever, right? As in full, as in 100%, right? But apparently the life doesn't work that way, right? Life doesn't work that way, right? So there is something like, for a lot of us, right? There is something, and probably for all of us, right? There is something like Allah chose you to have a very specific experience, or not to have a very specific experience, right? And I feel like that might bring some comfort to you. I don't know if it might bring comfort or unsettling feeling to you, right? Whoever is watching this video. But it brought both to me, actually, right? Because knowing that, hey, you was chosen for other purpose, right? You were chosen for other purpose as well, right? It doesn't have to mean anything, right? Bringing a child into the world is not the only purpose that one could have. There are a lot of stuff. If you want to have like those types of upbringing, child rearing, all those things. And people that say, oh, it's not the same if it's not your child. But there's adoptions, there's a lot of children all over the world that's actually suffering. There's a lot of things going on. There's people who have children who don't even want them, right? There's a lot of situations, social situations all over the world, right, that you could seek out, right? And try to connect with people if you have those connections, right? That if it makes you feel better, and provides a better condition or living condition emotionally and physically for the child, right? So people that say, oh, it's different when you have your own biological child. I don't think it necessarily had to be that case, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be that case. If you adopt a child, right? A child is a child. That's what I always say. A child is a child, right? If you adopt a child from across the globe, right? Or if you give birth to a baby, right? Um, so if Allah had chosen me to give birth to a child, my view might have been different though, right? My view might have been different. And maybe I'm just saying this because I was not chosen to do that. I wasn't selected to that, right? And maybe that's why I'm saying that, hey, it really doesn't matter, if you give birth to a child, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing as if you adopt a child or something like that, right? Maybe my view would have been different otherwise, but that is my view right now, right? But I always had the view though, right, that bringing a child into the world, right, is the value of a child is the same, right? Regardless if you biologically put it forth into the world, put the child forth into the world, or if it's a child from across the globe, right, who is adopted from whatever negative social situation a child might be in, and you get the opportunity to take that child out of that situation, and take care of that child, right? Is I believe that you might get a greater blessing for that from Allah, right? If you choose to take that route, I personally believe, this is my personal belief, and I have reason to believe that, right? That you might get like ultimate blessing for that, right? Because you're looking at a child or children, right, who was brought in the world by another person, physically brought into the world by two other people, right? And then those people were unable to take care of that child, right? And you took up the responsibility. So that's actually, to me, like double the blessings, right? That you would get if you actually take care of your, with no regular child rearing, right? Or biological child rearing, right? Because you taking it upon yourself and your responsibility to do someone else's responsibility, right? or the responsibility of two other people who's supposed to be doing that, and for some reason they can't, right? And if you choose to take up that now, I believe that the blessings that you will get is probably double the amount from Allah, right? Because you're not a person who is selfish and who's saying, hey, well, you just don't care, right? So if I get the opportunity, for example, to get a child from over the seas or somewhere, right? And house them, right? Clothe them, feed them, and like, and love them, right? I don't have a problem doing that, to be honest, right? Because if it is Allah did not choose, if it is there are people suffering all over the world, right? And say Allah choose you, hey, to just make an impact in a child's life in another way, why not? Why not? Right? So that's how I see it. Because was it sense like to bring forth a child into the world in this time and when it already have so much out there, right? Who not getting appropriate care, who not getting appropriate love, and you have real love to give, right? You have real love to give, right? You might not have all the material things. You might have little material things, right? You might have little to non-material things, but you have real love to give, and that's what children need growing up, love, right? So when I think about it, right, and I just feel better when I think about this, and I just be honest when I talk in it. I don't filter and think when I talking on these videos, right? I don't just be plain honest, right? To be honest, to have a child in this time, and it is feel like it is selfish actually, right? Because to know that it have all these children out there not being taken care of, and hey, somebody could just bring me one of those children, and I could just have them and house them and love them, right? So I don't know how people really feel about this because um I value all children in the same regard, right? But then and this is what I doesn't like when people come and make this statement, oh, it's because you don't have a child that you do. But I actually think that people would actually love children that they don't have more than their own biological children. That's how I feel. That's how I feel. This is how inverted this world and this reality is, right? I think that people is actually love children that they do not make more than they love their own children, right? And this might sound warped up, right, saying that, but it's a true thing, right? Because when you have your child, you attach to that child in a way that's saying, hey, if this child do this, I'll take this action that I don't like, I gonna dislike that child, right? Or I gonna have ill feeling or ill will towards that child, right? Or you're responding negatively to that child. Meanwhile, if it is a child out there of same age or anything, like your child, regardless of how old the child is a child, right? So if it have somebody old like your child out there making the same errors, right, as your child, you realize that people would understand. People who go who people would understand what it is saying by this, who understand the situation, right? You tend to act more positively, right, to someone doing the wrong thing if it's not your child, right? So not the wrong thing, but making a little mistake. I shouldn't say doing the wrong thing, but all right, if I make a little error, right, in life, my parents would react more negatively towards me than if they see somebody else my age, right, doing the wrong thing, and they might be more loving towards that person, right? So there's my point, right? So I might as well take a stranger and love them, right? We're in May 2026, right? Might as well take a stranger and love them as a child, right? So hey, if I adopt a child and a child making a mistake, I will love that child regardless, but I would correct them, no, but I would still love the child a lot, right? So that's what there's a message for people, right? You could take strangers, change children from all over the world, right? If you have connections and so on, instead of having children, and give children a nice growing up positive child rearing experience, because a lot of people over there will have a lot of resources, money, and they don't know what to do with it, and they don't know how to help people, right? So seek out adoption centers, seek out these things, seek out connections, wherever government, non-government connections, whatever it is I have, and seek to do those things, or make these things easier to be done now, right? I did make private videos talking about these things to cross border adoption and all these things, right? So that was a few years ago. So this is what I am referring to, right? Loving other children, right? Equally as if you have your own child, that child come out from your body, right? loving children equally, regardless of who they are, right? Because a child is a child, a child is innocent, right? But this is really for people too who choose to live a child-free life, regardless if it's not adoption, right? And they choose to do other actions that are good deeds, right? That doesn't necessarily have to do with having a child around you or anything like that. Because some people really just do like children, right? But they might have money, they might have resources, they might have time, right? And they might choose to give of themselves in a different way that's beneficial to society, right? So you might take care of the elderly too, things like that, right? So some people just don't like children on the whole. A lot of people, right? They don't like children, don't like being around children, right? Or they prefer pets, right? So this is this for you all and all. It's not abnormal life, right? So don't ever think that you live in an abnormal life or life that's not normal. Yeah, because that's how I know the feeling, I know the internal stuff all it just go through. Because I just go through it too. Right? Because you might have them kind of feelings pent up inside of you, but you can't express it. Right? But and it just be an uncomfortable feeling. Right? It could be a little discomfort in your heart, right? Or discomfort that is be feeling, right? When you're around certain people, right? So if you're around certain family members or you're around certain friendships, you're around certain whatever, village members, anything of this sort, right? You might get a little just discomfort when the topic come up with children, right? And it's nothing at your fault. It can never be your fault for that, right? So this is just to bring that's a settle the feeling in your heart, right? That whoever is go through these kind of feelings, right? If you go somewhere and yeah, see somebody or see family playing with a baby, right? And it just hey, but that could have been my baby boy, right? But is a is definitely not an envious way, right? But is a way that, hey, it's just what it is now. It is what it is. It is what, and it's a unsettling feeling, it's an uncomfortable feeling, it's a discomforting feeling, right? Let's be real about it, right? Let's be real about it. It's an uncomfortable feeling, and that's why some people just don't like to go and be around a lot of people a lot, right? We don't like to be around a lot of situations and people a lot because it is still a very uncomfortable feeling on our heart because of the situation, right? Because of the situation and how it has played out, how life played out, right? So it's not that anybody does have like a lot of people who do go around the family and things. Sometimes a lot of these things doesn't really have to do with the family or you really, but it just have to do with life, right? So this is the next thing. People will say, oh, this one don't interact with the family, that don't interact with the family. Right? But you should strive to because this is part of Islam as well, right? Striving to keep your family together is a part of the Islam religion, right? Let me make that clear, right? But this is also for people who just get a little unsettling feeling, right? Because of certain things. So it doesn't have nothing to do with your family members or you per se, but it has to do with life, right? So there's just to clear up them things, right? For anybody in the world, right? Like or if you are on the family end of somebody who don't integrate into the family as much, or you are the person who don't integrate into your family a lot, right? Is to just say, hey, it's neither of your fault, right? It's just the way that life has turned out, right? It's just the way life has turned out, right? So it doesn't have to do with me or you or them or us or anything like that. It's just the way life turned out, right? So it's just to say, hey, people could talk about these things in an open way because what else people if you like, oh, and you go and you go talk with your friends, or I like to go by that family, me I like to go by my family, right? And you tell your boyfriend or you tell your friends that, right? But it's just that you don't be open with your family about it, right? So that's why I open with all my videos here, right? So anybody could come and click any video and see how I just feel about life and things and situations, right? So that's how it is, right? So I don't mind. I just have one foot in, one foot out where I'm concerned because I believe in keep striving to keep your family together. One, right? As well as I don't really like to integrate too much. Too much, right? I like to integrate, but to an extent, right? And I like to be by myself certain times too, right? So I have one foot in, one foot. I obviously that's why I don't like that them kind of thing when people trying to like say, hey, well, you're choosing XYZ over you're choosing this over your family or their family over this. It had nothing to do with that. I just like we just relate to people. Everybody just relate to people differently, and everybody just have a crew or one person or a friend or online friend or a friend or something, right? That hey, I could be able to relate to one person differently. I could be able to relate to my family in one way, and I could be able to relate to somebody else in a different way because somebody else understand me and understand what I'm going through differently. My family can understand me and what I'm going through differently. My friends can understand me and what I'm going through differently, right? And somebody, a stranger online, might understand me and what I'm going through differently, right? So that's just tying up all those things, right? So nobody feel left out in a situation, right? Nobody feel like abandoned, right? Socially abandoned, right? Cosmically abandoned, spiritually abandoned, family abandoned, nothing like that, right? So this video is just to unite every situation regarding these things, right? To say, hey, explain what is going on, so nobody feel abandoned, right? So everybody know I here, right? Anybody could message me anything anytime because I here, right? So um and that's what it is about. So that we really talk about the issue about children and that connection and feeling, right? So Allah, that's what I'm saying. Allah probably didn't choose you to have a child because you'd be too loving or you'd be too overprotective, right? Or you'd just love that child so much that you start to worship that child and thing, right? Just imagine that, right? So that could be the reason why Allah say, hey, no, you're not allowed to have a child, right? That could be the very reason why Allah is like, hey, well, no, you're not allowed to have a child because Allah see the potential in you to go back to worshiping your child, right? If you give birth to a child, right? And that's against Allah's principle. That's against the principle of Islam, right? It's against Islam to worship your child, right? So if I have Allah know that I have a potential strand in me to say if I have a baby, I'm going to love that baby so much that I might start worshiping that baby, right? Because that's how I just feel sometimes. I did write a poem some long time ago, years now. I don't know which part today, right? I did write a poem about a potential baby out there, right? Waiting on me, right? um and I feel like I was like bordering on worshiping the baby, right? I didn't even come yet, right? That didn't even show up yet. That ain't even show up. Not even showing up, right? So when Allah see that hey, you have a potential strain to say if you have a baby or if you're going to get pregnant, right? You're gonna love that baby so freaking much, and you might end up worshiping that baby. Allah might draw back and say, hey, well, no, you know what? You need to keep on your path, right? You need to keep on your straight path, and you need to not go back into that sphere because there's a sphere that you come out of. You come out of, right? You come out of a state of worshiping your child, right? You was at a point. You was at a point at some point in the past, whether it's a past life, a past experience, whatever, right? You was there, and now you're being led out of there, right? Because worshiping any human being is a form of darkness, spiritual darkness, religious darkness, right? Whether it's your child, your parents, whoever, right? Your husband, your wife, whoever, worshiping any human being is a form of a religious darkness, a spiritual darkness, right? So once Allah know you have the potential to worship your child, Allah be like, nah, well, we ain't going down that road, right? We ain't going down that road, right? So you could do good unto your child, and you should treat your child with the ultimate love and respect, but you're not supposed to worship your child as God, right? So that's what we're talking about. So that's for people who are like me, right? You probably wanted that experience so bad, right? But Allah said, nah, it's all right, right? Let me give somebody else that experience, and that's okay, right? Because we share an experiences at the end of the day is okay, right? Have a blessed evening, everybody.